Identification keys are tools that allow you to work through characteristics one by one until you narrow down the specific species that you have. It's a very useful skill to have as long as you're willing to spend the time learning terms, working through details, and with the proper references. As you're collecting samples for identification, look for your average sample, but also note the ranges of what you have. Here's a particularly small leaf contrasted with a larger one. You have some size differences in between. You can take photos or samples so you can see that this has opposite leaf attachment, and if you have flowers or fruits, definitely take a sample of that. If you're not able to take a lot of samples, at least take photos of this so you can compare it later. It's useful to have measuring tapes or rules out in the field so you can get an idea of the dimensions of your leaflets or perhaps the entire leaf. Having a hand lens with different magnifications is also useful for plants that have characteristics that are a little hard to see. For example, this margin here looks like it's got hairs along it, and if you can't tell with your naked eye, you'll be able to get a more magnified view with different lenses. A dichotomous key is one that gives you two sets of characteristics, usually opposite of one another, and as you pick the one that matches your sample or your species more, it will slowly guide you to the proper species. This is assuming that you have all the parts that you need, especially reproductive structures like cones, flowers, and fruits, and you have an average specimen. You don't have one that maybe was treated with plant growth regulator or happens to be excessively large. So as you progress through these steps, as you're eliminating other options, eventually you'll land on the tree that you have. So this key is a little bit different because this is for families, but the idea is the same. So you start off with number 1. You read the first one, and you should definitely read the second option as well. And you pick the one that matches more. So if it matches the first 1A more, you have a plant that's in the pine family. But if it matches 1B, it tells you to go to 2. So for 2, if it matches 2A, it'll tell you to go to 3. You skip this 2B section. And you read 3A as well as 3B. And now they're giving you 2 options. You can jump to 4 or 5, depending on which of these 2 characteristics your tree matches. So this is how you progress throughout a key. Just be careful because this is a more readable key than most. Some can be very small and hard to decipher. So you want to be careful that you're not jumping so far ahead that you've misdiagnosed something and you don't know where you went wrong, and you might have to just start all over again. Once you've gotten to a positive identification, it's a good idea to confirm your findings with a reference manual. There's a lot out there. These the manuals that contain the keys also have a description of species. So here's an example of what that might look like. If you're really serious about learning how to identify plants, you can pick up a book like this, which is more botany. There's a lot of chapters that describe all the terms that you could possibly need to describe margins, leaf surfaces, fruits, leaf bases, leaf tips. And there's an even more extensive glossary in the back. So this would be a good companion to keying something out. So you can just flip through the glossary when you find words that you're not sure about. The more fun way might be to find a field guide local to you. So this is by no means a comprehensive book. There is also a key in the front here, but don't expect it to figure out every tree for you. But what I like about this is there's a lot of pictures, and there's a blurb here about that particular tree. So when I was running into trees in the field that I didn't know, I would take a lot of good notes and pictures and samples, and I would basically just flip through this book and look at all the pictures. And along the way, what you end up doing is you start recognizing different trees that you may have never seen before. So when you end up seeing it in the field, you actually recognize it. This book is written by Matt Ritter, who is a professor at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. And they have a website companion to this book that I use regularly. This is Select Tree by Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I consider it to be a companion to the book that I just showed you, but it's a lot more comprehensive. So you can search by characteristics, or if you know which species you're trying to look up, you can go straight to the species profile. So that they have pictures of the tree in all seasons, up close shots of the leaves and the fruit, along with a lot of extra information. They have an online urban tree key for about 250 species. This is not a dichotomous key because they give you multiple options to choose from, but as you move through this, it'll dump you out at the end to what the most likely common specimen might be. I found this other one, which is for New England. They have a range of keys from simple to a dichotomous key, and I found this one to be very interesting because it's one, interactive, so as you click it gives you the next pair of options, but all the technical terms are defined and a diagram is shown. So you don't have to go search through a different manual. You don't have to Google the definition. It's all here. So when you're looking for resources local to your area, make sure you check to see who put it together, how good it is, and you just have to come up with a list of resources that will help you figure out your species.